Eternals, the latest film in the MCU, released last week. We know for the past 2 weeks it's been getting review bombed by critics on Rotten Tomatoes, making it the first rotten score for an MCU film to date. That all made me all the more excited to see it because I'm like, what the hell is this going to be about? We know at surface level, the Eternals is of course based on a comic book by Marvel Comics created by Jack Kirby, which is like a ripoff of the New Gods, but more on that somewhere else. It focuses on a set of aliens that are sent by these beings called the Celestials, the creators of the known universe, to inhabit a planet and protect intelligent life from these things called the Deviants. These apex predators set on basically killing and eating everything that comes in their path. We follow these Eternals who by name obviously live forever, and as we catch up with them in the modern day as they have a new challenge ahead of them as deviants arrive again and more secrets of the MCU begin to unfold. Gentlemen,
yes,
I am gonna I don't know if I want to just give it to you guys first, because Ramel's energy, Fico's energy is already giving me something of the sense of I'm about to be offended. But I'm gonna give it to Fico first. Ramel's laughing because Ramel's ready to rip this a new asshole. This might be a mistake giving it to Fico because I don't know if he knows.
I'm gonna keep mine so brief. I just
that's not good.
Get it, you know, like these people are supposed to take care of the world, and they only show up when these fucking monsters. It just did not hit with me. And plus, you know, I was so caught up with going to McDonald's to try to get you this toy out of Happy Meals that I don't think I could have actually enjoyed this film, even if I could. I was so goddamn frustrated with every Happy Meal that I bought. They kept giving me the same shit. It was garbage.
You kept getting the same toy.
You would think that they were just trying to they would give you different ones, but no, it was the same one every fucking time.
I'm convinced at this point because the toys he was getting were the same toys that were in New York. So I'm like, do they only just have like two toys per every 5 states?
It feels like when they do the McDonald's Monopoly and like you just want to get Broadway, but you fucking goddamn keep getting Park Ave because they obviously
there is no Broadway.
Actually,
there isn't a Broadway. It's all a trap
from it at this point. But there's that HBO thing about how the Monopoly thing was a big scam. And
yes,
there's
yeah.
in the whole world, and they're locked away.
Yeah,
somewhere.
It's ridiculous.
But anyway,
ridiculous.
I digress.
Right.
The movie just did not hit for me personally. Good visuals, good cast, story's dog shit. I am not locked in. I'm locked out. Forgot my key. Can't. Never again. Never again.
Locked out.
Take
really, Fico. Okay.
Take us away.
Yeah. So.
Yes, Ramon, please step in. Take it away. What do you have to say?
The first hour of the movie, I checked my watch because I was like, "There's another hour and a half of this."
I had to do the continuous pause play thing. Like, gee, how am I 32 minutes in? Just roll credits.
Yeah, so, and
sorry guys, I just need to do this because I might get chapped from ripping your asses.
I was in the movie theater for this,
right?
So I checked my watch. I'm an hour in. I'm like, am I gonna have to get up right now and take a little break, come back, because it doesn't look like I'm gonna miss much. There is a moment. So the first hour is completely garbage.
Yes.
It's all over the place. Other than the fact that they do these historical scenes where they go back in time, cool. And they are in the hanging gardens of Babylon and ancient fucking Aztec Mexico and stuff. That's the cool part for me. But story-wise, I could care less. Also, don't care about another Superman. Don't need it, don't want it, never want to see it again. Don't need another Flash. Don't need another, kind of Green Lantern. I don't need these things. Well, because she has she opens up and a sword comes out, but like it looks like kind of Green Lantern-esque. I don't need these things. I've already seen them in very major superheroes on DC. I am okay with Marvel because like a lot of times Marvel gives me these movies about these rando BC fucking heroes that I have no idea who they are, but like they're kind of unique in their own ways, and then they make them cool. But again, I don't need to see heroes that I've already seen in an ensemble movie that I also already just saw in Justice League. So I felt that in the first hour, just like I don't care for this at all. So then there's a moment in the movie where I switch to not caring a lot, but okay. Like it's just okay. So I go from all right, this is cool. And I know that Gab is going to discuss this a lot, but like there's scenes like the scene with the gay character guy, Fastos. There's the scene with
Guys, if you're gonna shit on anyone's chests from this movie, you can at least know their names.
I'm not gonna know a single person's name in this.
I
movie.
want to forget this film. I want to forget that I've seen it.
Yeah. So and then also another big moment is when they introduce Dinesh. Yeah. Because to me, the moment that Dinesh comes in and starts.
Okay, well, let's call him like that's his name in the other show. Here he's the actor Kumail
yes.
is playing Kingo.
Sure. Yeah. When Kingo comes in, I go, okay, this guy's hilarious, and he's doing basically jacked Dinesh as a superhero. Right. So I go, this I can get on board with. Of course, every scene that he's in is hilarious.
Right. He's great.
Yeah, Fastos is awesome in terms of like the story that they created for him. The what's the little one, the little girl, Sprite. I did like her story in terms of how she's angry that she has been a child for thousands of years, and she never gets to experience the things that adults get to experience because she's been a kid her whole life, even though she's thousands of years old. I thought that was a good touch because, again, these are things that I like in these kind of movies. It's realism. I like these comic book movies to give me some sort of reality, things that are closer to home than just complete fantasy.
Yeah, that's...
Wait, but if there's anyone watching this, I think you need to specify a little bit because what specifically hits close to home
not close to home like me personally. I mean, like
you could feel where they're coming from.
I can feel where that character's coming from in her anger,
right,
about not being able to do the adult things that she wants to do.
And
okay, so basically taking those supernatural science fiction stories and then grounding them in some kind of emotional base.
Like I don't need a full 100%. Like this guy is from the sun and he's got perfect powers and like that's just his life. You know what I mean? Like I like that these guys have these stories.
And these internal conflicts and these struggles and these dichotomies and these
So at that point, when that kind of stuff started coming into play a little more. I was more interested in the movie. Yeah. I then lost a little bit of. I lost a little bit of that care again when it came to like the final scene. Just because I didn't care for how that was done. They were just trying to prevent this big ass thing from coming out of the ground. But then, like, the way that it was done, it just, like, felt like,
meh.
So, the movie, all in all, the movie had good characters. Some bad, but a lot of good. Some good stories for these characters that kept me interested. but overall wasn't a great movie.
Right.
And it's probably a movie that I don't need to see again, but but there are parts of it and there are characters in it that I would like to see in movies going forward, just not probably this ensemble again as a whole like this. I don't need to see this particular movie again.
Fair. That's where I'm at.
One last thing. I don't think that it warrants less than a 50. I think, to me, if we're going to go, like, if we're looking at the Rotten Tomato score, I think that a 40 something, is that what it has?
Like a 46.
I think that's way. I think that's too low. I think that's a little too low. I think it's probably like around a 60, 65, something like that.
I'd say 64.
Maybe
64%.
Yeah, something like that.
To it.
Go ahead, Gab.
Tell us. Make us believe.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm going to say right out of the gates, this is my favorite solo IP Marvel movie to date. And so when I mean solo IP, I mean that it's the singular property of Eternals. I personally don't consider Captain America Civil War to be a Captain America film. I consider that to be an Avengers film. You needed basically all these motherfuckers in your movie to really get those ticket sales because Captain America 1 just was not that good. And when I look at all the other solo Marvel movies, like the solo little mini franchises, the overwhelming majority of them, I have gone to theaters and seen them and gone, okay, and then gone home and not thought about that shit ever again. That was me with that's me with Doctor Strange movies. That's me with the Ant-Man movies. That's me with the Iron Man movies, except number 1. The Thor movies. Terrible. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, trash. Hulk, the bastard child that the MCU pretends isn't part of their roster. I think, and even the Spider-Man films, to be quite honest with you, the first 2, I thought were just fine movies. And that's and to me, that's a large consensus of the MCU and a complaint from the 3 of us about the MCU multiple times as we've spoken on this podcast. It is a franchise and a studio that ultimately plays it safe with their films and doesn't dare to step out the line of their formula. Is there things in this movie that are formulaic to the MCU? Absolutely. There are things that are formulaic. Even Kumail as Kingo, amazing. Ramel, I completely agree. Without him, this would be a snooze fest. A lot of his humor is very much to the recipe 100%, of MCU humor. But it works. Because the guy's a genius and he's hilarious. The action, how we can't do this movie without a third act action sequence. It can't just be all theory and conversation. So we have an action sequence. So there are things here that are MCU recipe, but it is a movie that I felt was daring and trying to say something more. What did it execute completely 100%? No. But at the same time, I also understand that this thing is trying to launch its own mini franchise, perhaps its own trilogy, the way other properties have done. And that there is more conversation thus to come forward from surviving characters. I think that to take these characters and make them essentially androids, which removes them very much from their comic book origin, I appreciate it because I'm like, how are you guys going to do the Eternals and then introduce the X-Men? There would be too much overlap and similarity. So they've given them a really specific identity as tools to these gods known as the Celestials.
So in the comics, they're not robot androids?
They're not. No, they are like a different species of human, essentially, that were created by the Celestials. And so they were like, and they're kind of like this small fraction of humanity. Some still live on Earth, and then some move to the moon Titan that revolves around Jupiter. What are you doing with your eyebrows? What's the problem? What's What's the issue?
Continue.
Yeah, let me continue, bitch. Because this is so fucking asshole. I see nothing of humor. Fico's checked out, and you know what? But I'm gonna stay here as this ship is sinking, and as both of you are going like, I'm gonna stand in front of this movie and defend it because another
Titanic just going down, playing.
Literally going. I'm staying here and I'm playing this shit till I'm submerged in that ice water.
It's been a pleasure, brothers.
It's been a pleasure, brothers. Eternals, bitch. Eternals. So I love this movie for daring to talk about something bigger. The casting. This is, to me, the first MCU cast, no offense to anyone else in the MCU, that has just given me this great talent and chemistry between its characters, where it isn't all just like a lot of MCU movies are. What I don't even know what like. I guess just like that kind of like surface level-y, kooky, fun Saturday morning cartoon-esque energy.
Yeah.
That kooky camaraderie. There's actual
corny
camaraderie. There's a deepness almost, and this is a fat cast. There's 10 Eternals, and it still manages to give each of them at least a moment, and even between themselves. And Angelina Jolie's Thena, what she was able to do with her chemistry with Gilgamesh, played by Don Lee, that broke my soul.
That was good.
Like,
that was good. I forgot to mention those, but that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
The patience and devotion that they have to each other, I thought was just exceptional. I'll get to the weak links in a minute. Makari and Druig's chemistry, even though they got maybe like 2 moments together, but there was such a strong romantic chemistry between the two of them that I absolutely loved. I agree.
You could tell that they just wanted to smash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just wanted to smash. It was sexual.
By the end, you can just tell they just wanted to smash.
We survived, bitch. Icarus tried to kill me and I didn't. We need to
smash.
Okay, you don't have to do like ASMR. But like, yes. I agree with you, Ramel. Sprite's story, I really appreciated in it as well. Kingo bringing in a lot of the humor. Fastos, and not just because I am the gay man of the podcast, because I was nervous to go into this movie because I'm like, okay, they're promoting this character as the first gay character, but Disney has done this multiple times where they toot the horn of representation, but it's just like a little peck on the cheek over there in the corner during the end credits. Like, if you just like cut the frame a little bit, like, well, they're out. You don't have to worry about it, China. And in this case,
a little magic eraser here, and they're out of here.
Iraq. Don't worry. I just need to cut.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So, and I've said it on the pod too that it's between a rock and a hard place when it comes to representation, because studios aren't willing to do it because their moneymakers, a big chunk of it is international, and they're not as advanced in these conversations as perhaps we might be in the United States. So the representation is always like a cheap little gesture that has no bearing on the story. So I was concerned that it would be the same story here, and absolutely not. They introduce you very clearly. This is him, his husband, and his child living in a home together, and if that's not clear to you yet, motherfuckers, they put them in the center of the screen together, have an intimate moment, and share a kiss. I will say this, and with our producer, we shared this point of view, and I thought I was the only one, so I was excited to hear from him as well. That sitting in the theater, as someone who always preaches these things of representation, wanting to see more gay characters in film, and a lot of people rolling their eyes at me like, gay people are everywhere, shut up. To be in an IMAX theater where basically every fucking seat is filled, and I'm looking at this giant screen,
it was packed house.
Packed house, and there's these 2 men sharing a kiss together. I got anxiety in the theater, because I was suddenly very aware that I'm watching what is considered a blockbuster movie from a major studio that basically owns the box office. I'm surrounded by a bunch of people, and they are not apologizing or hiding the fact that this is a gay man. And I haven't gotten that yet. I've never gotten that before. That was my first time in a major movie like this. And I just loved not that I love this moment in history, but when we're introduced to Fastos closer to the modern age is when he's looking at the wreckage of the nuclear bomb. and how he has essentially given up on humanity because of what we do with our advances and how we've evolved.
Right.
And to take it to the present day and to see where he has found some peace and some redemption is within these two lives. And I thought that was, to me, I thought that was so beautiful. And then also for him to be the one to subdue Icarus in the final fight, to me, had so many layers, because it's not just the tension that was between the two characters, but you have Icarus, who is a slave of a dogma and unable to think beyond what he is instructed to do and what he is told is right without questioning it, which is a giant allegory for conversations we have in our society. And then you have Fastos, who's not just coming in as the gay character. His power is literally about advancement. It's about pushing forward and pushing boundaries and evolve it. Like, that's what his ability is when it comes to creating this technology and not being afraid of the answers that come from it. So to have that dichotomy between those two characters in that fight and seeing Fastos be the one to subdue Icarus, to me, tears. I got tears in the theater. Even though it wasn't a cry moment, it got tears for me in the theater. I cried like 4 times in the theater to this movie. I really did. I was like, I cried a lot to this movie.
You also cried when you saw it before us by yourself, because that wasn't the first time you saw it.
Yes. Right. It wasn't my first time. I should have highlighted that. I'd seen it before, and I was like, well, now with the second time, I'm not going to have those kind of powerful emotional reactions. Lies. I did. There were so many moments that I just really struck to my heart, and I think it's because of the talent of this cast. Ramel's point of view on the whole, like, I already have this, and especially when you consider the parallels with Justice League, I'll give it to you. I agree. I think that's why they flew Icarus right into the motherfucking sun at the end of the movie. Where like, yo, we only wanted to borrow Superman. We're not trying to like keep him. So like he can go right back there into the sun, and that's all we're gonna do with him. I think the surviving. I'm very interested in seeing the surviving Eternals. Ramel says like, I don't need to see something with just them. And here's my tidbit to that, or my comment to that.
Wait, hold on. Before you say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll kind of retract that statement, and I'll fix it by saying this. If done better, maybe it was just the way this particular movie was done. That I'm not saying that I'm 100% going to say if they do come out with like an Eternals 2 without fucking annoying Icarus, and like there's a different director, or you know it looks a different way, I'm not gonna say no. I'm not gonna see it. I will probably go see it, and it's possible that I could like it. It's just this particular movie, the way that it was done, how it was planned out, and how it was executed. It just didn't do anything for me particularly.
Just didn't hit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. I think what was I gonna say about where say like I wouldn't do a sequel of this like just them. But if you look at the MCU and all of the mini trilogies, essentially no Marvel character stands on their own. They don't. Of course. The most successful Marvel movies are the ones that involve other broader MCU characters. Even Thor Ragnarok had Hulk in there.
But that's almost at this point part of their formula.
Yeah, the formula.
Well, but that's what I mean when people say like these characters weren't strong enough. I'm like, bitch, no one in the MCU is strong enough because now Captain Marvel's getting a sequel, but it's not even called Captain Marvel. It's called The Marvels, and you're going to have Miss Marvel and Photon in it. So you know that when it comes to your sequels, the way you do bigger and quote-unquote better is by adding more characters. So I think an Eternal sequel, where now we're down to just 6, 7 if Harry Styles really is involved.
Let's go, Harry.
Forward. That overlap with other cosmic characters.
Even get me fucking started.
Come on, man. You don't like our boy Hair?
Look, I'm kind of on the same boat with you, but
son of Thanos or whatever, brother, whatever.
Brother of Thanos. Man. So I think I agree. Build some muscles.
You better get stacked.
That's my advice to anyone who does a comic book movie. I'm like, if you're not getting stacked, Like, come on. And also, look, Fastos, you're my big teddy, and I love you forever. You know I like them thickies. But my thing is, like, not only that, but like he's also like one of, if you really think about it, he's also one of the most powerful Eternals, because Kingo can shoot lasers out of his hands, right? But Fastos can just make laser gun technology like he did and do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking about Athena being able to summon a variety of weapons, Fastos can literally created shields and other weaponry at the same time. So he's kind of 2 for 1. So like my dude is actually like, I want him more front and center on these surviving members of these teams, because on this team, because I just think there's a lot to use there. Now, we're talking about the weaknesses of this movie. This movie did have weaknesses.
Is he kind of the more Green Lantern that, like I was talking about?
And no, if you're gonna compare him to something, it would be Cyborg.
I guess Cyborg, yeah.
The technology aspect, like he's more.
But
Cyborg.
like Cyborg has like strength, and like he can fly
because he's a machine
and shit.
Yeah, but Fastos could probably create a jetpack if he really needed it. He also, when at the beginning of the movie, his technology was creating hover plates for them to step down off the ship, so he can literally just create flight boots and like flight is not a problem for him if he needs it. That's what I'm saying. The range of the characters is bananas. Weaknesses of the movie, I do think there was, and we already talked about one who I think is Icarus for sure. And the character who the whole thing revolves around, which is Cersei. Oh. Out of all the 10 of the characters, no offense, Gemma Chan, I think she's a great actress, but they just didn't give her
complete snooze.
Complete snooze. If we were a more advanced culture and society, this would have been a much more interesting story to tell through Fastos' point of view, because I think what anchors him to humanity and his conflict with it and his peace amongst the Eternals would have been way more interesting to follow than Cersei just hanging out and dealing with boys who like her.
Yeah. It was she was a snooze. She was a good actress and she's fine, but like that character there was not a single scene of hers that she was in that I cared about. And again,
I don't think it was strong.
Like even at the end when she's the one that's like doing the thing to stop the thing from coming out of the ground, like I don't care for this.
Yeah,
I don't. Like even she makes even that character like is so dull to me that like even her being the one that defeats the bad thing and like stops it doesn't hit. So I'm like.
Because she's been a snooze the whole movie.
Like even your power your power to solve the thing is a snooze. You're just. The thing barely comes out, and all you're doing is freezing it.
Yeah,
like cool.
No, she's
turning whatever the fuck it is.
She was turning it to stone. I actually think and this is something people said a lot. They think that Cersei's powers are lame.
No,
I just think you're not being creative. I don't think
her powers are lame. I just think that particular end of the movie with her doing that, it was anticlimactic.
Right.
Okay. Right. I actually, for me, because Chloe Zhao loves those landscape and those large wide shots, seeing the Eternal emerge from the ground, like how that was done, I'm like, okay, I see the Chloe Zhao touch here. But I particularly loved how seeing like the hand, like the fingers, like and that grasp, because it reminded me of like that photo, like the cosmic like space shoot called like the Hand of God. And it all, to me, it all circles back to that they are essentially angels, the deviants are demons, the celestials are God. Right. And it brings that larger conversation of to sacrifice a few for the good of the many, and how that conversation unfolds amongst them all, and what the value is in. I thought it just asked so many good questions, and I don't need a movie to give me the answers. I like that European style of film where it doesn't feel like it needs to like hold its audience's hands. We're going to ask you questions, but we're not going to tell you what our answer is. You guys can sit with it or do what you want with it. And I really like that this is the first Marvel movie to take those kind of risks that they did with the narrative and not just be a typical Marvel film. So you for me, when someone, I like risks, I don't like playing it safe.
Yeah.
And when it comes to this stuff, so
I'll agree with you there.
Marvel's Eternals for me gets a 9 out of 10. I give this movie a strip 9 out of 10. The casting was phenomenal, the chemistry was phenomenal, the substance of the story was phenomenal, costume design, the powers I thought were cool. Even the things that I considered weak, I thought was okay, because it is the first Marvel movie outside of the Avengers ones to make me feel something. Like, I felt in this movie. So it felt just for me. So I'm like 9 out of 10.
One quick question, and this is just completely throwing it out random here. Just wondering, if there is no Fastos in this movie, what do you score it?
1. No, I'm saying, if there's no Fastos in this movie,
Because
like the characters,
I have to, I have to, or let's make it even maybe a little bit tougher here, because if you take out Fastos completely, that we don't know how the movie would be. Obviously, let's take out the integral scene that they included that has the
same sex kiss.
No, not just that, just that, just like his whole personal part of the movie.
Take all that out.
Right?
Take his whole background.
Does that, because I know you have a personal attachment to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that change your score if that is not done that way? If it's done a typical bad, shitty fucking
just a cookie cutter way. Just a cookie cutter way.
Cookie cutter, please China way.
Do you mean like do you basically mean if he had a wife instead of a husband?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Or
as in like his story remains intact.
Yeah, or if he was single, whatever. Like it doesn't matter what it is, just it isn't like that he's gay. Does that change that? Yes.
Like they don't.
Yes.
Like they don't make his sexual identity so front and center. The only way that would lose points for me is if Disney and Marvel did what they always do, if say like you get representation, but it's not in the movie. That's the only way that would lose points for me. If the character Fastos was in the film, and let's say you still have the Japan moment with him,
okay,
and in the present day he's single, but it's not, I don't know, hidden like the way Disney always does it. There's something to make it very clear. I would be a little chapped because it's still, again, my thing is, don't say you have representation in your movie and then sidestep it.
I agree.
If they had said nothing about that going into the movie, and then there's this one blip moment where it hints to it, I would have been like amazed by it, because it's like, oh, they didn't even say that. I was like, so that's it. But if you're going to like tap your own shoulder for doing representation and it's not in there, yes, I would have dropped. Yeah,
you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Crazy.
If you're gonna,
you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Okay.
But no, I think if he was single, or if he had been with a woman in the movie instead of a man, I still find his story to be incredibly impactful. And I think Brian Tyree Henry just did a really good job, and how he meshed with the rest of the cast was so good. And a lot of the other performances were just, I think, Salma Hayek as Ajak was able to play that mothering role amazing. The actor who played Druig, we got to keep looking out for him, because clearly he's a fucking actor. With what happened in Tenochtitlan. Angelina Jolie se comió, like what she did and not even having to speak, it just through an eye contact with Gilgamesh.
Angelina Jolie barely spoke in this movie overall.
Barely, but still her acting, like that's the talent of this woman. It's still, and I actually liked the Tiamat end sequence, and that now on Earth in the MCU, there's literally a god's hand sticking out of the surface of our as our ocean. So I think that's cool.
Okay. All right. The movie for me is between a 6 and a 7. Okay. If I could give it a 6.5, I would, but it's not. I can't do that. So I'm gonna be lenient here, and I'm gonna give it the 7. But that's gonna be because I do agree the acting was very good. I think and that's the acting kept me involved. The like I mentioned before, some of the characters, their stories kept me involved. I enjoyed the diversity in the movie. I enjoyed that it wasn't just like a bunch of cookie cutter, all look the same heroes. And I did like some of like the fight scenes, like especially right in the middle. Like to me, the middle of the movie was like my favorite part of the movie. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that part of the movie, and I think that them taking the risk, like you mentioned, deserves more than what people have been saying. Because Marvel does not do this typically, and because the conglomerate that is Disney always has to please everybody else because they want to make the most money, the fact that they did do what they did overall with this movie, and more importantly, have not backtracked or changed,
Right, stick to your guns.
then
there.
yes,
they haven't.
then yes, the movie I think deserves at least a 7 for that. Rewatchability for me, probably no, but I could say the same for, I would say 75 to 80% of Marvel movies in general. I'm not going to watch again.
That's a good point.
Me, Black Panther, this movie, and I guess I'm gonna say Doctor Strange because I have like a weird interest with Doctor Strange. But these three IPs, if that's what you want to call them, I guess, they're the ones that like are the only ones that interest me to like even discuss it. Because like I don't care about anybody else. I don't care about Iron Man. I don't care about Thor. Like I'll never even discuss these guys because I don't give a shit about it.
Got
I watch the movies because at this point now I'm so invested in this long timeline thing that they're doing that now I'm locked into just like what they're doing and how it ends up Endgame type thing.
Yeah.
But they've done that and they knew what they were doing, and that's what they've done with people like me that don't really care about this type of stuff. It's like they give us enough in these movies to attach you so that you can go to the next one to go, what are they gonna give us that's gonna be the next thing to like tie us to the next thing.
It's just say what it is, man. They string you along. They got you. They got the hook in you. They're just gonna pull you to shore.
Yeah.
Now you guys have made some riveting points in the last few minutes. It's got me rethinking a couple things. Maybe I was a little bit too harsh, saying that I was locked out per se. You made.
I'm literally holding the door like ajar, just listening as the rain's pouring, and like trying to say.
You brought up some good points that maybe I kind of let slip over my head. There was some good storylines in there. There was some great dynamics between characters, great visuals, good action. But it still just doesn't hit for me. I feel bad doing
perfectly
this.
Fine.
I feel bad for this because you guys give
perfectly
it
fine.
Erroneous.
Perfectly fine.
Erroneous.
4 out of 10. Never want to see it again. Get this garbage off my screen. Marvel, come back with something that I care about. None of this garbage. You tried something new. I'm happy for you.
Hey, man.
You didn't back down. I'm happy for you. Bring back the formula. Do it works. Don't give me this garbage. This run around. You want my $11? Do it the right way. That's all I got to say about it.
Hey, man. Gotta respect it. It is what it is.
Fico will not be on the show next week as he will be dead.
I will